Hello and welcome again to our channel. Thank you for following along in these discourses on the little booklet Kamatthana. I hope you're being blessed, and I hope you might share with others if you feel there's some good in these Dhamma talks. Today we're on page 24, and on 23, we were talking about listening, the skill, the talent of learning to listen carefully without allowing the mind to wander off during the middle of our listening. And we just have a few more sentences at the top of the page referring to listening. Here's a quote. Taking notes and trying to remember causes anxiety. It has no value at all. You only get names of Dhamma and Kilesa, but Kilesa do not diminish in strength or number. So the Pali words here, of course, Dhamma, the teaching, the Buddha's teaching, we can even call it the truth, and then kilesa, those ideas, those mental activities that are actually polluting the mind, not saving us from unwholesome and problematic mental and emotional experiences. They're just ideas that ultimately don't work, and the point is, they don't become fewer. The whole goal of our meditation and mindfulness practice is to be eliminating the kilesa and strengthening our wisdom in Dhamma. And when we're anxious or even frantically trying to take notes and stressing ourselves that we need to remember what we just heard is not the way to practice Dhamma. It might be the way we use when we're in school or in the workplace, but this is not the way to learn Dhamma. The way to learn Dhamma is to quiet the mind as much as we possibly can in the circumstances that where we're listening to Dhamma, and just let the Dhamma in unfiltered by our opinions, what we like, the sound of that person's voice, or their posture, or their physical appearance, or some other distraction, trying not to compare it to something else we've heard, something some other teacher has taught, how that differs, how it's the same, all these mental gymnastics that occur when ideally we're just listening. And listening is something like letting the seeds of Dhamma just come in to a fertile ground where when the time is right, they'll bear fruit. And we don't have to stress that we didn't remember, because remembering is not the point. Understanding is the point. Having a heart experience is the point. And when that happens, we don't have to remember, because now we know. Now it's not an idea that we're recalling. Now we've had the direct experience. Now we know. We'll never forget what we know. It will be a deep wisdom. It's not an intellectual wisdom where we do forget. We often forget what we just, the information we just passed the test in a class in school. I can't remember anything I learned in grade school or high school, and most of what I learned in college. So it's a kind of understanding that's heartfelt and it's life transforming. If your life is not changing by your practice of Dhamma, then you can be certain that the practice is all an intellectual understanding. It changing our mind from an intellectual point of view is not the intention, it's not the goal in Dhamma. We often hear stories, and we may know people who come into the Dhamma practice, could be in any religion, and they get converted. They're really determined, they're really faithful to these new ideas. And of course, one of the first things, they're likely to go around preaching to others how wonderful what they now believe is. But their home life doesn't change. Their frictions between their spouse or with their children or at the workplace, in many cases, they become obnoxious. They become intolerant. And that's because they haven't opened the heart to the teachings. They've just accepted them, memorized them, and have become dogmatic about them. So that it was the result of not listening and letting these seeds take root and bear fruit without having added any of our own opinions or analysis. Listening and examining can get rid of kilesa. So there are stories from the time of the Buddha where individuals, often monks but also lay people, just heard a portion of a Dhamma talk, a few words, a sentence or two, and they heard it, and their heart opened, and they had a transformative experience. They became a stream winner, in some cases, all the way to Arhan. I'm not good at quoting the Pali Canon. I don't have a good memory. But there was the famous case of a monk on his alms round, and he saw another monk, and there was just some quality, some characteristic in that monk. Maybe we could call it an aura or a demeanor or a posture. There was something elegant and remarkable about this monk, who was also on alms rounds. And he thought, wow, there's something different about that guy. I'd like to know what's going on with him. So he waited till the appropriate time. The monk was available, and he commented him and said, brother, I couldn't help but notice, and I wonder who your teacher is. And the man said, well, it's Lord Buddha, but you shouldn't be asking me because I just met him, and I hardly know anything about what he teaches. Well, tell me what you know of what he teaches. He told the monk, all things that take life live for some time and pass away. Nicca, dukkha, anatta. And the monk who asked had a transformative, enlightening experience. He became at least a stream winner. He was enlightened by hearing that phrase. So that's the power of listening. And we can analyze and examine and investigate later, but when we're sitting in meditation, we can do that to teachings of the Dhamma It's essential that we investigate the Dhamma. We have never been told to have blind faith. Buddha was not an authoritarian. He didn't say, do as I say or you'll go to hell. He just said, listen to me as carefully as you can, and then go off and think about it. In fact, there's another story where he gave a Dhamma talk, and his right-hand disciple, Sariputta, he asked Sariputta, he said, well, what do you think? Was that quite a remarkable Dhamma talk? And Sariputta said, I don't know, I'll have to think about it. Okay, and the last of the three that we mentioned yesterday, thinking, listening, and doubting. Now we're on doubting. It says, in training the mind, it is crucial to overcome skeptical doubt. So we named, on the last page, we named 5 hindrances, 5 enemies that keep us from being a good practitioner, and the 5th one was doubt. And we said that we can doubt the Buddha, the teachings, and those who have been successful, the Sangha, but more likely, or equally likely, is we doubt ourselves. We doubt, and that doubt is a hindrance, it's an enemy, it's the opposite of having confidence or faith in the teachings and the practice. That we are not yet pure is because we still doubt, we still waver. Wow. So that's how powerful doubt is. We're still questioning ourselves or the teaching or the technique or the teacher, the specific teacher we might have. And that is the blockage, that's the obstacle, that's the hindrance on the path to Nibbana that is keeping us from being successful. And this doubt masquerades in all kinds of ways to convince us that it's not doubt, that it's something else, and that it's actually benefiting us in some way. It's something that we shouldn't want to get rid of, and only by the practice of mindfulness can we see doubt for what it is and all the masquerades that it takes to keep us in our suffering. Doubt is just another conditioned phenomena. Okay, so everything that arises, as we just said about the monk who was enlightened by hearing about this, everything that arises into existence, including thoughts and emotions, but every physical thing, every thought, every memory, everything that's going on in the mind as an activity is a phenomena, and it's conditioned. It arises, it stays for some time, and it passes away. It has a life of its own to some degree, and certainly if we don't intervene, it will live as long as it's conditioned to live. And doubt is just another one of those things that is conditioned. So it's fake. It's another form of fake. And we have to recognize, even when we recognize we're in doubt, okay, I get it, I see that I'm doubting, then we say, but that's just a conditioned phenomena. It is not me, it doesn't belong to me, and it doesn't constitute myself. This is the practice of mindfulness. We don't just know what's going on, we know that it's conditioned and it doesn't belong to anyone. Doubt is one of the 5 hindrances, and its antidote is faith or conviction. I already just mentioned that, not knowing this sentence would follow. It's a hindrance, it's an enemy, it's an obstacle. And if we want to defeat it, we will have to strengthen our faith or our conviction. Now, faith has become a kind of dirty word in the West because people of faith have behaved badly and been bad examples of their own religion. They refuse sometimes to be rational or to use their own intelligence. They believe the impossible, the ridiculous, and they, in some cases, the more ridiculous thing they can believe in, the prouder they are of how much faith they have. So when we hear the word faith in Buddhism, we may have a negative reaction, a knee-jerk reaction. So the contemporary translations are more commonly using the word conviction, even determination. So it's an enemy, and don't imagine it's your friend in any sense of the word, and strengthen your conviction by deepening our practice. Okay, now in the middle of the page it says the triple gem, Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. We've mentioned those words, taking refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha previously. And now let's see if we can define them with some other adjectives. Mindfulness is Buddha himself. It's important, really important, to not think of the Buddha as a human being who lived in ancient times and who had a secular name and a wife and a son and parents, etc., and then he became the Buddha. Buddha is a kind of consciousness, and this man, Siddhartha, had or rediscovered or was an expression of that kind of consciousness. Similarly, in Christianity, Christ is not Jesus' last name. Jesus the Christ, not Jesus Christ, as if it were a family name. It means he had a quality of consciousness that in Christianity is called Christ consciousness. So when I have statues of the Buddha, etc., in my home, and when I go to temple, I pay respects to these statues, these images of Lord Buddha, but I try desperately to remind myself I'm not paying respect to a person, to a historical figure. I'm recognizing there is something called Buddha nature, or possibly Christ consciousness. And that is my substance. That constitutes the truth about my nature. So mindfulness is a form that Buddha nature takes. The Buddha is just the one who knows. So mindfulness, again, the one who knows is a function in the practice of mindfulness. We know that we know, and everyone in the world knows if they have any mental aptitude at all. They're not deranged. You ask them what they're doing, they say, I'm eating dinner, I'm driving the car, I'm at work, I'm on the phone, I'm scrolling, searching the internet. That is not mindfulness. There is an observer, a silent observer that watches this activity. I think of it as a video camera. It doesn't have an opinion. It doesn't judge. It just knows. Oh, now I know that I'm at work, that I'm driving the car. There's a companion to the consciousness of just driving the car. There's a passenger in the car that's watching me know that I'm driving the car. Buddha, here's another definition of Buddha: the undiluted knowing of the way things are, the one who knows clearly, completely, and thoroughly. So it's hard to talk about the Buddha. It's not something we can imagine. It's not something we can use vocabulary or any kind of conditioned phenomena to understand. It's not a kind of knowing. It's not a kind of knowledge or information or secular wisdom that we can imagine. So, as we said on a previous page, it's not helpful to even try to imagine what it's like to be a Buddha, to have Buddha nature, or what Nibbana might be like. And to that degree, we have to say this one who knows is a conditioned phenomena. And ultimately, frankly, the one who knows also disappears when we touch Nibbana. There's no one who touches Nibbana. There's no subject-object experience. But there is Nibbana. And we can call it by any name, but it's not conditioned. It's not something like anything in this universe. So Buddha nature is clear knowing, it's inner awakening. It's this knowing that isn't colored by opinions, expectations, desires, likes and dislikes, anxiety, doubt. It's not colored by anything. It's just unconditioned and ever-present and always perfect, but there's no one who has that experience. There is just this experience without there being a person. Buddha, the one who sees the danger of samsara. So samsara is this world of suffering. It's the world of rebirth. And the more clearly we see that this world of rebirth, this universe of rebirth, is never-ending. Even when this universe that we're living in now disappears, it will reappear in its new form. As we said, the Buddha said the infinite universes have arisen and pass away. In this world that we've lived in, they say there have been 5 mass extinctions. So more or less everything that existed on this world disappeared, new forms appeared, they disappeared 5 times. And we're heading towards the 6th, of course. It's inevitable because all things change and all things pass away. So the more clearly we see that the only escape from a life of rebirth and the suffering that includes is to find Nibbana, then to that degree we have already developed or understood something about the Buddha nature. And Tathagata is another word used in the Pali Canon to refer to the Buddha, and it's translated as thus gone. Gone from where? Well, gone from the values, the addictions that the secular world tricks us into valuing and wanting. And he's gone from any sense of being a person. The Buddha is not a person. It's the absence of all sense of being a person. And what's left when we're not a person? And that's the great mystery, and we won't know until we touch it. All right, we've concluded page 24. I really appreciate you listening. I deeply appreciate you listening. I'm grateful that you're here and valuing this channel. I hope you will subscribe, and I hope you'll encourage others to consider this teaching. And may you be well. Thank you.